In breaking news this morning, Aminu Baba Dan Agundi, the Sarki Dawaki Baba of Kano Emirate, has sued the Kano State Government, House of Assembly, the Speaker, Attorney General of Kano State, and a host of others. In a suit filed on Thursday, 24th of May 2024, Justice Liman of Federal High Court sitting in Kano granted an ex parte order stopping Governor Abba Yusuf-led Kano State Government from reinstating Emir Muhammadu Sanusi II. In the suit, parties are hereby ordered to maintain status quo ante until the passage and assent of the bill pending the hearing of the fundamental rights application. The judge adjourned the case to 3rd June 2024 for hearing of the fundamental rights application. It will be recalled that Kano State Governor Abba Yusuf yesterday reinstated Muhammad Sanusi II as Emir of Kano 4 years after he was deposed, saying the decision to return him to the stool is in the best interest of the state and its people. Yusuf, who signed the new Kano Emirate Bill 2024 into law, declared Sanusi's reinstatement as the 16th Emir of Kano and pointed out that the new law would bring unity to the people of Kano as well as foster sustainable socio-economic development. He issued a 48-hour ultimatum to the man who had replaced Sanusi, Aminu Ado Bayero, his brother Nasser Ado Bayero, and 3 other former first-class monarchs to vacate their palaces and hand over all Emirates property to the office of the Commissioner for Local Government Affairs.
From the very moment I signed the bill into law, it means that all appointments made in accordance with that 2019 law are voided, and the balkanized Kano Emirate has been restored to its original free 2019 status, guided by the provisions of the Kano State Chiefs and Emirs Appointment and Deposition Law 1984 and the Kano State Emirate Council Repeal Law 2024, with full support of the kingmakers, I have approved the reappointment of Malam Sanusi Lami.
All right, Rufai. In what has been touted in some quarters as Game of Thrones, in some places the return of the mark, in this case the return of Emir Sanusi, and a lot of other things, because it's been quite dramatic. And the key players or the key actors in this regard, of course, starting all the way from former Governor Rabiu Kwankwaso, then to Abdullahi Ganduje, and now to Abba Yusuf, and of course the primary, the main actor, the protagonist in this drama, Emir Muhammadu Sanusi II himself. Your take on this story and, of course, the update received this morning.
Okay, let's go play a game this morning. You can call it a game of Quidditch in Harry Potter. You can call it a game of chess. You can call it anything. But this game has a dial-back clock. Let's dial back to the year 1983, about 40 years ago. Exactly the same thing happened. Abubakar Rimi had fallen out. Then he said the way to go was to attack the emirate, create new branches of the emirate, and he went ahead with it. There were talks about suspension then, and Abubakar Rimi went ahead with it. He got away with it. When Barkin Zuwo, the governor of Kano, new governor of Kano, came in, he reversed all of this. It's a game playing out again, about 40 years after.
History repeating itself.
History repeating itself because of the political impasse. Obviously, Ganduje with Kwankwaso having fights. It was under Kwankwaso Sanusi got in there. Then the table turned. Kwankwaso has gotten back Kano. The first thing is to repeal these injustices, and the laws were repealed. I see this court case, this ex parte, to be listened to on the 3rd of June, breach of fundamental human rights. You know what they say about history? I don't want to use the B word. Exactly the same thing Sanusi Lamido filed. In fact, an Abuja High Court on the 1st of December 2021 ruled in his favor that his fundamental human right was breached when he was deposed as emir, and he should be reinstated. In fact, they even awarded damages. Prior to him being deposed the last time, Sanusi had won all the court cases in court. He also won a court case in February prior to that time when they brought anti-corruption charges against him, corruption allegations against him, that he wasn't given right of fair hearing in the Kano court. So them filing this case is just a repeat of history. But you see, my fear in all of this, Ayo, is the fact that our sacred traditional institution is now in the hands of politicians, and I don't trust those politicians too much. The Arctic Monkeys, famously in their song, Teddy Picker, sang about the game called Let's Have a Game of Teddy Picker. You know, where you slot the machine and you pick teddies. I don't like when politicians play the game of Teddy Picker with our traditional institutions. And that's what they're playing now. In all of this scenario, so because Ganduje's candidate had won up to the appeal courts in the elections, if he had won in court, will this be reversed? So if another Ganduje leading governor comes to Kano now, will they want to take their pound of flesh? Why don't we leave our traditional institutions insulated from all this madness that goes on? I know it was the British that started it. When they came, they decimated our traditional institutions, made them subject. But our political class should not continue in this. And that's why I support all the advocates that are saying that let's make our traditional institutions stand alone. But according to the laws of their land, they have to stand under the state government. So this is history repeating itself. How this will fly, I do not know. Because always, like it's textbook history. The first place to go is file a fundamental breach of rights suit. Sanusi too filed it. In fact, he won. He won in court, but he wasn't reinstated because Ganduje was reigning supreme in the states. Let's see how all of this pans out. In sub-camp, it's going to be jubilation. In sub-camp, it's going to be mourning. We've not heard from the Bayeros. And you know, in all of this, the interesting thing is that all of these people are all families. So we've not heard from the Bayero. We hear it's out of town when all of this happened. I knew some people that tried to reach across to them. I mean, I have, you know, by extension, tried to reach out to Sanusi yesterday and reaching out to him. He said he also heard the story. And I'm sure a barrage of calls were coming in. We couldn't talk long. So that's the way the cookie crumbles in Nigeria. For some people, that's the way resuscitation happens for some other people. But when he's reinstated, Sanusi will be about one of the most powerful people out of the north because currently is the head of Tijaniya across the West African state. Khalifa is Khalifa of Tijaniya across the West African state, then also being the Emir of Kano. So much power, but also great responsibility. He has a plan for a lot of education for his people. He's been pushing that. And let me openly state for full disclosure, I do a lot of work with 1 million teachers, and Sanusi Lamido is the chair of our advisory board. I just had to state that for open disclosure. Nice. So we've worked a lot in terms of education and a couple of other things. Let's see how all of this pans out.
All right, so prior to the court judgment by the Justice Liman Federal High Court, before the Justice Liman Federal High Court, there was drama yesterday following the announcement. Initially, he had whispered, you know, there were whispers around the fact that Sanusi, Emir Sanusi, Muhammadu Sanusi was coming back into rulership, into leadership as traditional ruler in Kano State, as the Emir of Kano, a first-class monarch. If you recall, if you go back to how this all started, well, following Rufai's history from about over 40 years ago, would recall that 4 years ago, after 6 years of being Emir of Kano, Muhammadu Sanusi II was deposed by the then governor of the state, Abdullahi Ganduje, after what some people had called a public criticism at different times by the former against the latter. And in reaction to this, even though he had said he was being removed on the basis of insubordination, he was deposed. And then further, before he was deposed, his powers were whittled down. So he broke down, the former governor broke down the Emir of Kano's position into 5 emirates. And so rather than having ultimate control as the sole traditional first-class monarch in Kano State, there were 5 other emirates created, whittling his power, and then consequently he was deposed, and then he was banished to Nasarawa State. Emir Sanusi has many times come out to talk about his experience post this, how it was sudden, how he had to live with his family, how friends helped him. Everyone remembers the famous speech at the homegoing ceremony of Dr. Herbert Wigwe, and how instrumental Dr. Wigwe was to him during those dark days. His supporter, he had to be moved out using his private jet. He didn't have any notice at all. And it seemed like a witch hunt. It didn't seem like it was a witch hunt against him by the former governor because of the power that he had. Now the governor is out of the way. A new governor, a new sheriff is in town. And from the moment when Governor Abba Yusuf became governor, a number of people had started the conversation around whether or not Emir Sanusi II would come back as Emir of Kano, following the way that he was deposed, and now he would be coming back into power. Some people had said, okay, well, maybe he may not be interested in that position anymore since he had become, the leader of the Tejunyayi movement in the West African coast. But I heard a speech once that he made, or perhaps his introduction, which was that the Emir of Kano was a position he had desired and had been prepped to take on. So it was a lifelong ambition for him. And so I found it difficult to imagine that he would want to let go of that ambition. And now we see that play out with this reinstatement. However, there's a clog in the wheels with this court ruling. But like you mentioned, Rufai, let's see how far this will go. As it stands, the court has ruled that everyone remains as status quo. So the 5 emirates remain, even though the governor has given directions to the Commissioner of Local Government Affairs in the state to begin the process of handover, given an ultimatum of 48 hours. It is said that would now stand. Hopefully, he would respect the rule of law and wait out until this matter is well handled by the court. Like you mentioned, Emir himself, Sanusi, the 14th Emir of Kano, is not around at the moment. So maybe this time would give enough time to give people the opportunity, because this must be handled sensitively. We know how things can easily erupt in that part of the country, and it's important to be able to manage the adherents and followers of these other rulers. I'll just say one final thing. Emir Sanusi could very well be the 14th and 16th Emir of Kano at this rate. But we'll see how this pans out. It's still drama. The drama is still unfolding. Now we'll see how the court processes will come out, will turn out. Move on to our next story this morning. Vice President Kashim Shettima yesterday announced that the administration of President Bola Tinubu had successfully secured potential investments worth more than $20 billion. Also, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Olayemi Cardozo, noted that the foreign exchange inflows recorded in the first quarter into Nigeria was 136% of the total inflows recorded in 2023. Cardozo also restated that the CBN was dedicated to maintaining a transparent and functional FX market where prices market-driven frameworks, explaining that the approach will lead to the long-term stability of the Naira. Both the Vice President and the CBN Governor spoke at the Vanguard Economic Discourse themed Reforms in the Era of Global Economic Uncertainties, Whither Nigeria, in Lagos. Shettima, who was represented by the Special Advisor on Economic Affairs, Tope Fashoa, detailed that Tinubu had facilitated investments to the tune of $14 billion from India and $250 million from the Netherlands. He also mentioned a recent commitment of $500 million for lithium development in Nasarawa State and another $500 million from Germany for renewable energy projects. Promises, commitments, assurances. Your take on this, Rufai?
So a couple of things. It's good to hear my brother, Dr. Fashoa, speak about, what is happening as regards investments. I mean, these promises are good. But also, you see, let's not get to a point where we do something called promises paralysis in this country. Where's the money? If we had the money, we will not go through the rigmarole we are going through. Some people have muted that. If we get about 10 billion USD or 15 billion USD inflows, we'll be able to cure most of our Forex challenges and a couple of other things we're facing through. But it's because we don't have the money. And when you say 500 million promises here and there, the question is, if the money is not coming in, then you're not doing anything. It's not as viable as when the chairman of Total, the chief of Total, is saying, we're taking 6 billion to Angola and we're starting anytime soon. So we don't want promises like Maersk promises of 600 million and we didn't see anything materialize. People can mute ideas, but can we fix the bureaucracy that makes those monies materialize? Because that's what the chairman Puyon of Total said, the chief of Total, the CEO of Total. He said, we talk too much. and we don't get anything done. So it's not just about making the promises, but what about the bureaucracy that stops the promises from being actualized? I think that's what we should watch there. But it was a good outing by my brother Tope Fashuwa there. For the CBN governor, I think it's best we say the whole part of the story. The reason why we had over 136% increase in liquidity was because we also raised bond yields to astronomical figures, and the traders were easy to be able to pick up our bond yield because they were making money. The part of the story he didn't tell fully is the fact that we now have to pay extra 1 trillion in interest for those bonds that we racked up to be able to get that liquidity inflow. And with that liquidity inflow, we've not been able to find the full value of the currency. You remember when we defended the currency to about 1,100, they were still saying that the currency was undervalued. So till date, we've not been able to know the true value of the currency. 1 year after, we are still on the journey of price discovery. I think it was the finance minister that said the fair value of Naira should be about 700. But where are we today? 1,500. Double that. So another part of the story, and that's why you see we have media here to balance it, is the fact that the reason why that liquidity came was because we went to trigger a lot of liquidity coming in through the bond yield market and other open market operations. But it has also left us with a gaping hole of 1 trillion in interest to pay for those bonds. And at the same time, with all those money coming after the rally, we've not still found the true value of the Naira with the liquidity. So we are caught at a crossroads. And when we're in the midst of all of this, what do? The first people we target are the BDCs. You are the one that say, okay, BDCs, in the first time, you will look at how the BDCs run, you give them $20,000, from there you raise to $10,000. Now you can't give the BDCs the money as the BDCs are complaining. Now you are the one now saying that the BDCs, you want to increase the threshold from 500 million to 2 billion, and they should come and re-register. So Binance is no longer the problem now, it's the BDCs. Before you know it, you will see EFC operators, they go and raid BDCs. We've been ready from today to tomorrow. It's not solving the liquidity crisis. So what is the long-term solution? We need real investment, FDIs, not portfolio investment. What you did was portfolio triggering. Your influx will come. It's just like me saying, oh, Ayo, give me the dollars you have. I will pay you times 2 of it in Naira. You will give it to me. But it doesn't mean I have the money at hand. So what we need to do is to have a bed at hand. You know what they say about a bed at hand?
What's two in the bush?
It's water in the bush. We don't have the bed at hand. That's why some people are already muting the other. Who do Nigeria just go to IMF and get some money in? Because where are we going to get the money? And look at it, the targeted inflows they are saying for the next quarter of the year, for the next half of the year is about 5-10 billion, which is also paltry. So if we get investment, if we are maxing about 15-30 billion in FDIs, we'll be able to stabilize to a large extent. So that's just to balance the part of the story in there.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say very quickly, $20 billion, and I'm glad that he qualified it as potential investment. Potential investment in every sense of the word is not really investment. It's just promises secured from the different places I'd mentioned earlier, from the president in terms of investing in Nigeria. We took all the announcements, all the news, we covered the trips abroad, and we praised the president at different times for saying the right words and sounding the right bites in the different countries where he had ventured to seek investment, friendship with Nigeria, with the potential to bring in the much-needed forex into long-term investment, FDIs, not the FPIs that we've seen in recent times. And what we've consistently said, and you know, good job to Mr. Tope Fashuwa, of course, in representing the economic realities of economic potential of Nigeria through the intervention of this administration, tried to make it look like, you know, Nigeria was, you know, attracting these big numbers. But one thing we've often said is that following these meetings abroad, when the president goes to meet with key stakeholders, especially potential investors in Nigeria, is what happens afterwards. Number one thing is important, that beyond the conversations that I had at those meetings, these are people who also analyze the countries of interest. They watch the news, They look at statistics, they see what is happening, and they measure if indeed their money is safe in terms of investment in the countries they're going to. I would love to sit here today and say that, of course, Nigeria is the investor's destination. And we will talk about that a number of times. But the truth is that if we're to be serious about these potential investments becoming reality, then we must also position ourselves as a nation through policies, in terms of policies that are, that are not conflicting, and policies that are consistent. That was the thing. That was one of the things that the MD of Total had mentioned at the Africa CEO Forum. We must be able to position ourselves as being able and ready to admit these monies coming, these inflows, and be able to make it profitable for these countries. And so what we often say is that, and I think Dr. Bati mentioned, following his time in government, that it is the ministers and the ministries that then follow up with action points, work out the fine details of ensuring that these promises turn to reality. And so whilst we can praise the administration for securing promises, it almost doesn't count, and then the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So you can have good intentions, you can have potential, but it doesn't mean anything until we begin to see actuals and see its effect on the economy. So unfortunately, I won't praise that statement by potential. What we want to see is that we are in dire need, we are desperate, we are hungry, we are thirsty for investment here in Nigeria. We want our final story today. The 13th annual lecture of African Watch Network Communication was well attended, with stakeholders emphasizing the need for Nigeria to reclaim its national identity and the shared values that define the nation. The Deputy Managing Director of Arise News, Emmanuel Efeni, received an award for his strategic contributions to both the print and broadcast industries in Nigeria at the event. The guest speaker, Professor Hope Egara, underscored the necessity of a national rebirth. He noted that the country's brand had failed to evoke a positive image both locally and globally. Also, Emmanuel Efeni appreciated the efforts of the organizers for recognizing the efforts of Nigerians who are contributing to the stability of the country.
I'm elated, and I want to thank God that the efforts we've put in over the years is being acknowledged and recognized by organizations like African Watch Communication. Well, we want to dedicate this award not only to myself, I received the award, but the platform on which one operates, Arise News, has also provided the exposure for people to appreciate what we do. So I dedicate this to all our colleagues at Arise, especially Prince Nduka Obagbena, who has a lot of vision to take not only the practice of journalism, but media enterprise to a higher level. So I dedicate this to him and all my colleagues at Arise.
The theme for this year's lecture is Nigerian politics of today, the quest for national rebirth, reclaiming the identity of a nation. You know, we keep portraying the image of this country bad, which is not good. You know, to build a nation is a collective responsibility. So organizing this event annually is to share ideas, brainstorm, to think the way forward for Nigeria. Nigeria is a great country. Everybody is needed for the greatness of this country. So that's what we do every year, organizing lectures, inviting high-profile Nigerians to come and share ideas on how we can better Nigeria and make the country good for all of us.
We became independent in 1960, and we have lived together for these many years. How come that we have not been able to achieve full integration? How come people still stress ethnicity at the cost of nationalism? It means that something is fundamentally wrong, and that is what we must address. And to address it, we need a rebirth. We need to think differently. We cannot continue to do the same thing and expect a different result. So there is a need for a national rebirth.
Congratulations, Mr. Emmanuel Efeni. We all know him when he comes in with the newspaper analysis each morning here on the morning show. Does an excellent job presenting some of the topical issues around the world. And I'm glad to see that he's been rewarded, not just for the morning show, of course, but his seasoned journalism over the years, and not just in broadcast media, but also print media as well. He's definitely paid his price in that regard. So congratulations, Mr. Efeni.
I mean, very stellar career, we should say. I mean, spans many, many decades, over 3 to 4 decades now. The king of features, as he's fondly called when he does a feature thing in the print, and he's held high managerial positions in this day. We can only say thank you so much. And you can see the rich depth of insight and institutional memory he brings, to the newspaper reviews. Because you see, one thing that is lacking in Nigerian media today is we've not done a good job of passing on institutional memory, proper archiving, historical antecedents in our own analysis and things like that. Those are the things that, is missing. But to a large extent, and that's one thing I give kudos to Arise for, with the rich team and all of that, the balance, we're able to bring all of these things to fore. And that's why when it comes to in-depth analysis, you can't get it anywhere better than Arise, And thanks to him. But he knows that there are things involved and he needs to do the needful. It's a Friday. Most people, weekend, but probably Monday.
No, it's a good day for implications.
It might not be for
maybe we want to wait for Dr. Bati to come in.
Yeah, so that the house will be full.
Maybe,
so when Dr. Bati comes in, we'll come together and we'll do the needful. We must not ask the implication twice. It's once. Do it.
He's more than able. We trust Mr. Efeni. He's a capable DMD of Arise News and, of course, king of features during his time as in the print media, and still very much active there. And so we say congratulations. It's not just a win for you alone. It's a win for the entire station and, of course, this day media sister publication.